For every Jedi Knight who served as a guardian of the Republic, there were over 100,000 soldiers fighting on the front lines. Soldiers born in a test tube, bred for a single purpose: war. We often see the Jedi as the heroes of the Clone Wars, their lightsabers a symbol of hope. But what if the true strength of the Republic wasn't the mystic in robes, but the soldier in white armor? What if the clones, in their tragic, engineered existence, were ultimately more important to the Republic than their Jedi generals? Let's take a look at the state of the galaxy when the war began. The Republic hadn't faced a real military threat in 1,000 years, and it had no standing army. The Jedi Order, for all its wisdom, numbered only around 10,000. For your reference, that's not a fighting force. It's a group of peacekeepers and diplomats. When the Separatists unleashed armies of millions of droids, the Jedi could win skirmishes, but they couldn't hold 1,000 systems at once. They simply couldn't wage a galactic war. This is where the Grand Army of the Republic comes in, an army grown on Kamino from the DNA of Jango Fett. These weren't conscripts. They were a product genetically designed to be unquestionably loyal. Where the Jedi were a scalpel, the clone army was the hammer the Republic desperately needed, just to survive. There's a reason the conflict wasn't called the Jedi Wars. It was named for the clones, the soldiers who formed the very backbone of the war effort. An army of 10,000 generals with no soldiers is just a debating society. The clones were the army. On the battlefield, the clone troopers' value was undeniable. They were trained from birth in tactics and weaponry, and they consistently outfought the droid armies. But as the war went on, it became obvious that each clone had his own personality. We see leaders like Plo Koon encourage this individuality, noting that it made them better soldiers. This was on full display during the defense of Kamino, where clones fought with a desperate, creative fury the droids could never hope to match. This effectiveness, however, also highlights a key difference. The clones were a constant. Their training made them a reliable, high-quality fighting force. The Jedi, on the other hand, were a variable. A brilliant general like Anakin Skywalker or Obi-Wan Kenobi could inspire incredible loyalty and boost morale. But then you have a Jedi like Pong Krell. During the Umbara campaign, Krell's reckless tactics led to catastrophic casualties. He saw his men as disposable assets, once telling a clone to simply send a work order to Kamino for replacements. And this is what makes that campaign so tragic. Even under the command of a cruel general like Krell, the clones of the 501st fought with lethal effectiveness. They adapted, they endured, and they achieved their objectives. Their value wasn't dependent on having a good general. The tragedy of Umbara wasn't that the clones were ineffective. It was that their effectiveness was squandered by a flawed Jedi. More than any weapon, the most important asset the clone army provided was absolute loyalty. This was partly programmed, hardwired into them with inhibitor chips, but it was also nurtured. Service to the Republic was their sole purpose and a source of pride. Of course, individuality did emerge. We see clones like Cut Lawquane who deserted to raise a family. These stories are powerful because they show the humanity breaking through the conditioning. But it's important to remember they were the exceptions. The vast majority remained loyal. This brings us to the ultimate, heartbreaking expression of their purpose: Order 66. When the command was given by the Supreme Chancellor, the clones executed it. The inhibitor chips activated, and loyal soldiers became Jedi-hunting automatons. Commander Cody, a clone who had fought alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi for years, who considered him a friend, didn't hesitate to order his death. From the clone's programmed perspective, this wasn't betrayal. It was the ultimate act of loyalty. They were eliminating a threat to the Republic, just as they had been designed to do. This brings us back to our central question. Were the clones better than the Jedi? If we measure better by who had the most lasting impact on the galaxy, the argument becomes chillingly clear. The Jedi fought and died to preserve the Old Republic. They were a force of conservation. The clone troopers, however, were a force of transformation. They were the unwitting instruments that dismantled the old galaxy and forged a new one. Their existence allowed the war to begin. Their effectiveness sustained the conflict for 3 years, allowing Palpatine to consolidate power. And their final act of obedience, Order 66, was the masterstroke that shattered the Jedi Order and cleared the way for the Galactic Empire. In the aftermath, the clones' fate was just as tragic. Their purpose served. They were deemed obsolete and replaced by cheaper stormtroopers. They were a tool used to perfection and then cast aside. It just goes to show you that when you have no real connection to the wider world, you become very, very disposable. When we look back, it's easy to be captivated by a lightsaber and a Jedi Master. They were the symbols of the Republic. But symbols don't win galactic wars. Armies do. The clones were the engine of an era. Their creation started the war, their fighting sustained it, and their programmed loyalty ended it on Palpatine's terms. They weren't better in a moral sense. But in terms of strategic importance and their ultimate galaxy-shaping impact, the clone army was the more vital component. The Jedi fought for the soul of the Republic, but it was the clones who determined its fate. Well, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think. This inherent conflict between their fostered friendships and their programmed duty makes the clones some of the most tragic figures in the entire saga. Who do you think is the most tragic clone character in all of Star Wars? Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. As usual, thanks for joining us today.